Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk, back with another fancy fold card for you, and this time it's a kind of, this came about because I was messing around recreating a box fold card, and I'll put the link into that, which I made some time ago. And just messing about, I ended up with this design here. So it's not quite, it's actually quite a simple fold, but it's quite pretty. When it stands up, you can see it becomes like, with this little bit on here, quite a bit of interest. And I've really used die cuts to kind of embellish it for a change. So not a lot of stamping, but the main focus is to show you how to create the basic card, and then you can decorate it to your desire. So to start off with, you're going to need some Whisper White card, and I'm just using the ordinary Whisper White because with the fold it makes it quite strong anyway, and you don't want it to be too bulky. So you're going to cut your cardstock to 10.5 inches on the long edge here, just here, and then 5 3/4 inches, so that's in between the 5 and the 6. You see the large mark, and then there's another mark midway between those two. So pop your scraps to one side. You're then going to do some scoring, and this is very straightforward. It's at 1 3/4, 3.5, 7 inches, and 8 3/4. And that's all the scoring on the trimmer. I've pre-cut my other items, but you'll need your trimmer to do those, so I'll just tell you the measurements. And then what you're going to do now is make some marks along the top and the bottom of each point. So I'm going to use a ruler. You could use your trimmer, but first of all you're going to mark at 1 3/4 on the top and the bottom. Like so. And you're going to mark at 1 inch on here. Now obviously what you could do, I'm using the end of my scoring tool, but what you could do is actually use a pencil and rub the marks out afterwards. I've got a pencil here. Might make it easier if I did that for you. I haven't got one sharpened, that's typical, isn't it? Okay, I have 3 pencils, none of which are sharpened. Okay, and then you're going to do the same, you'll see on this score line here. And you'll see I've just bent that up just to make that a little bit easier to see, because even for me with the lights it can be a little tricky. So once you've done those marks, so we made a mark in the middle, top and bottom, and at 1 inch on the score lines either side, take your ruler and just line those up and score between those marks. And again, going in the opposite direction. Same at the bottom, so between this point here and here. And again here. Then you're going to score from the 1 inch mark to the bottom of the next score line. Same over here. Same at the top. And same on the other side at the top. So once you've done that, what I want you to do now is fold and burnish all of the vertical score lines. And you don't have to be too fierce with that, just a gentle burnish, because this one is going to fold back on itself. So again, fold back on itself. And this is like making a fold back gatefold card to start off with. But what you're now going to do is take where you've scored and just gently fold those in. Make a nice sharp point. the same at the bottom. So again, just gently press down, and where you've scored it will naturally fold. Again on this side, just again ease that. And then the last one is just like so. So you can see we're just gently easing those points. And you see why the ordinary Whisper White is fine for this. And that is your basic card. So now for the decoration. So to decorate, what I've done is I've gone for rather than a full 1/4 inch, I've gone for a 1/8 of an inch as a border here, which gives a really sort of neat little border. So these have been measured at 1 5/8. So that's 1 1/2, and then the next kind of mark across, not your 16ths but the 8ths, by, instead of 5 3/4, 5 5/8. And I've cut 2 of those. And those just go straight onto the side there. And I've got a second panel here. Then I've cut 2 panels of the Celebration Designer Series paper. This is beautiful foiled paper, and I've cut those at 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. Just pop those, and you'll see that's a really quite a narrow border, but because these panels on the side are quite narrow, if I'd gone for the full 1/4 inch on both, it wouldn't have given you very much space to work with for our decoration. Okay, so that's our basic card, as you can see here, with that lovely foiling giving beautiful effect. Now what we're going to do is actually do our die cuts. Now I've actually pre-cut all the die cuts here, because what I want to show you is, rather than how to die cut, how to create these 2-tone images. And it's really simple. What you do is you take a die cut in your green, where you're going to have the leaves, and you do a second die cut in your colour, and I'm using Sweet Sugar Plum here. And then all you do is, on the pink one, you trim away those leaves, like so. Then I'm using our fine tipped glue. Obviously you could use a glue pen if you had a glue pen. It's whatever your preference is. And how I like to do this is, rather than trying to kind of create a complete line, which I find then splodges, I just put little dots around on the back, and I leave that for a moment while I do my next piece. So that's in effect setting a little bit. So I've done the same with the next die cut, and these die cuts are all to go with the Petal Palette Suite here. So you see you've got the lovely stamps and the sentiments, and then you've got some fabulous dies. You've got dies to cut out these images here, and then with some of them you've got ones like this which just create the flowers and the branches. So that's what I've used for my die cutting. So I'm going to put the glue onto that in a moment. All I'm doing then is layering this on top of the green, like so. Just press that down gently with your hand, pop it to one side to dry, and then I can do my second one, which is this one here. The thing to remember when working with the fine tip glue is it is literally just dotting it. You don't want too much pressure on there, and also make sure you always put the lid on very quickly so that you don't get it drying up in the top here. So when you do that, just pop the pin like so, and just keep that to one side. So I've already created some of the other images already, so we're just going to put this one back together. The piercing tool can be quite useful here, just to flip that up. this is probably the most difficult bit about this, which is just orienting the flower to the right way. And then once that's done, what I've done is I've used on my original card, not quite a full image, that these ones are full ones, but I've trimmed these ones down. So you can do whatever you like, but obviously to fit on the front, I mean, you could have it overhanging if you wanted to. It would work. And let's do that for a change. Okay, so just pop some dots of glue on the back of 3 of these. Again, just to allow that to set. So it's almost kind of evaporating slightly, just to make it slightly less runny and slightly tackier. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could use our adhesive sheets as well for this. I do use those sometimes. I quite like those for sort of slightly bigger ones rather than these really intricate ones. I suppose because I've got used to using the fine tip glue with them, I kind of don't worry too much about it now. But everybody's different, and you've got to find what works for you. And that's what I always say to ladies in my classes, that it's, crafting isn't about recreating necessarily what I do, although that's always very complimentary when people do recreate exactly what I've done, but it's about finding your own way of doing things as well. So it's coming up with something that suits you. I sort of do lots of different styles. I'm quite sort of, that's why I'm a Flutterby. That's why I came up with the name, because I really do. I kind of dip into all sorts of things. So yeah, that's how I came up with my name. So what I'm doing on this one is I'm actually trimming away quite a bit, and you could do this before or after you've glued. I find doing it after I've glued, it makes it a little bit more robust. There we go. And I've trimmed away this leaf here as well. So I've just left literally the one leaf on the top corner. And again, just pop glue on the back there. My nails are shocking. I meant to put some wraps on them before I videoed today, but I overslept, had a lousy night's sleep. But still, there we go. You don't want to know about that. There we go. And then just put some gentle pressure on that just to hold it in place. Should have let that one dry a little bit longer. So while that's drying, I'm going to trim some of this branch here. So all I'm doing is just trimming a little bit off here to create a kind of spray that sort of sits in there. I'm going to trim off that little one there. There we go. That was what created that bit. And then that gives us a nice little bit for the top as well. You can tell I didn't use my dye brush on these. If ever you get any little bits that are left in there, just take your pokey tool to them, pop those out, or you can leave them in if you prefer, up to you entirely. So again, we're just going to pop some glue here. Yes, I've got the luxury of a day that's relatively quiet in the house. Well, a morning actually. It was supposed to be a day, but I've just heard that husband is coming home early. So not that I don't want to see him, but I was looking forward to a full day of crafting. Still, never mind. I've managed to get a few projects done, which is really nice to kind of get back into the habit. Fortunately, life's kind of got in the way a little bit recently with family and things. So it's so nice to be back in my craft room, being able to share some of the projects I've got. So while that's drying, you just again, just apply gentle pressure there. I'm going to pop that to one side, and we're just going to stamp our images for the middle. So I've taken the bird from the petal palette, and I've just stamped that in Memento Black. I am going to stamp that in Memento Black. But rather than die cutting it out, I'm just going to cut it out using one of our circle punches. And this is the 1 3/4 inch circle punches. So that's my 2 inch, I'll need that in a moment. Just come in, centre your little bird in the middle and punch. And then for colouring, you can colour with whatever you like. I just used a couple of our Stampin' Blends. And this is actually the, I used the ivory marker, but I wanted a slightly darker brown. So I'm just going to come in and these wings. And then come in with the rich raspberry, because we don't do one. I used the dark one there. Oh yes, I've used the dark. Well, wasn't the colour I intended to pick up. There we go. So just blend that in. And then I'm going to come in and just lighten the centre there with our colour lifter. Oh, can't get my words out straight. Tell I haven't videoed for a while. Then I'm going to use my 2 inch punch and just take a piece of our cardstock and just punch a 2 inch circle from that. So just again, if you haven't got the punches but you've got circle dies, which lots of people have, then that will obviously work just as well. Just get the layering to whatever you like it to be, whether you want a larger or a smaller one. There's our little bird for the front. Here's our sentiment, and I'm going to use one of the other sentiments from this stamp set, and I'm using just some smoky slate, and this is just a very simple best wishes, which I'm going to pop in the middle there. So having done my sentiment, I'm going to add some glue just to the left side of our disc, and I'm going to just line that up in the middle there. There we go. So there we have a Best Wishes card using the lovely petal palette dies and some of the lovely foiled celebration paper to make a floral card. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy making your own version or one that's the same as mine. And if you want any of the products that I have demonstrated today, pop along to my Stampin' Up shop 24/7, and it's heidismith.stampinup.net. Come back and see me again soon. Bye now.